Every D&D group feels like their way of playing is special, and to be honest, they're right. There is no single correct way to play Dungeons and Dragons. But what if I told you some behaviors, the ones people defend as just their playstyle, are actually toxic habits in disguise? Play however you want, but don't you dare call your bad habits a style. Today we're not just sharing horror stories. We're shining a light on the 5 most common behaviors that quietly poison your game from the inside out, and what you can actually do when you spot them at your own table. Welcome, weary travelers, to the Tavern at the end of the internet. Pull up a chair. We've all been there, right? The game starts with so much epic promise, but slowly spirals into frustration, arguments, or just boredom. It's easy to blame a bad adventure or a string of unlucky rolls, but more often than not, the real problem is hiding in plain sight, in our habits. I'm not talking about the obvious table flipping meltdowns. I'm talking about the subtle, creeping habits that pretend to be a personal style, but in reality just drain the fun for everyone else. But this isn't about shaming anyone. Think of this as table rehab. We're going to identify 5 of the most destructive habits that kill D&D game, whether you're a player or a DM, and, more importantly, we'll talk about how to fix them. Usually by looking back at the core ideas that made the game great in the first place. So let's get into it. First up is a real momentum killer, a game grinding halt I call the endless debate. This is that moment where the game stops feeling like an adventure and turns into a courtroom drama. You know what I mean? The 10-minute argument over whether a spell can target an object, if a character really had enough cover, or if someone can take back their last turn because they just remembered a rule. It's not a quick question, it's a total stoppage of play where the game's energy just dies and you see people starting to check their phones. I was in a game once where 2 rounds into combat, a player realized the DM wasn't using the optional flanking rules. He stopped everything to argue that his rogue would have moved to a totally different spot if he had known. The DM, trying to be fair, actually let the argument happen. 10 minutes later, the energy was gone and another player was trying to order pizza, and our epic battle felt like a staff meeting. The momentum was completely shot. This habit isn't about getting the rules right. It's about holding the game hostage. The fix is actually pretty simple, and it comes from an old school way of thinking. Rulings, not rules. In the heat of the moment, the DM just makes a call to keep things moving. It might not be the perfect by-the-book answer, but it is a ruling. Jot it down. After the session, you can look it up then. This respects everyone's time and keeps the adventure going, which is the whole point. Alright, next up we have a habit that creates this black hole of action. Players who just wait for the plot. This is the passive party. The DM paints this amazing picture. You enter a grand throne room, tapestries of ancient battles line the walls, and a single jeweled crown rests on a velvet cushion. And then, crickets. The players just stare at the DM waiting to be told what to do next. They're waiting for the plot to be served to them on a silver platter, treating the game like a movie they're watching instead of a world they're living in. This forces the DM into a corner. They either have to railroad the party with an NPC who just happens to show up with a quest, or they have to constantly prod, so what do? This passivity robs players of their agency and makes the DM feel like they're dragging everyone through the story. It's a vicious cycle that makes the world feel scripted and dead. The fix here is a mental shift for everyone. There's a great technique from the OSR or the old school revival that uses clear procedures and proactive questions. For players, it's about taking the initiative. Poke the tapestry. Ask if the crown looks trapped. Try to figure out what the battles on the wall are depicting. For DMs, instead of asking a vague, "what do you do?" go around the table and ask each player for a specific action. This nudges them to think for themselves and reminds them that they are the engine of the story. The world is there. It's their job to kick it and see what happens. Now, on the flip side of passive players, we've got a DM-centric problem. The DM who hides everything. This is the dungeon master who's so scared of players metagaming or figuring things out too soon that they hold back essential information. They'll describe a monster with vague nonsense like it's a large, scaly-ish creature, just to stop the players from realizing it's a troll and pulling out the fire. Or they'll reskin a monster but give 0 clues about its new powers. effectively punishing players for their experience. This doesn't create mystery, it just creates paranoia and frustration. It pushes players into one of two bad spots. Either they start guessing randomly and wasting time, or they metagame anyway, assuming the DM is playing tricks and acting on out-of-character knowledge just to stay alive. The game stops being a collaborative story and becomes a weird, adversarial guessing game. The fix? Just be transparent and trust your players. An OSR principle that completely solves this is giving clear upfront information. Just say it. You see 3 snarling goblins and a hulking ogre. Roll for initiative. This respects the players and their characters' knowledge. An experienced adventurer should know what a troll is and that it hates the fire. Real challenge doesn't come from hiding the stat block. It comes from giving the monster smart tactics, putting it in a cool environment, or giving it unexpected friends. Giving players more information, not less, leads to way more interesting choices. We've all been there. The fight that should have been an epic clash of steel and spells has been dragging on for over an hour. Each turn takes forever, players are mentally checking out, and the DM is just grinding through monster hit points. This is the combat slog. It usually happens when every single fight is built to be a balanced slugfest to the death, where monsters are just bags of hit points with no sense of self-preservation. I was in a high-level game where every fight felt exactly the same. The monsters, no matter what they were, would just charge and attack. No tactics, no survival instincts, just a slow-motion math problem of whittling down hundreds of hit points. By the third round, half the table was scrolling on their phones. The fun had just vanished. To fix the combat slog, we can look to old-school design again. Make combat faster and more decisive. Use monster morale. A goblin isn't going to fight to the death after watching 2 friends get vaporized by a fireball. It's going to run for its life. Give monsters goals besides just kill the party. Maybe they're trying to grab an item or kidnap someone or create a distraction before they escape. And honestly, making combat a little more deadly also helps. When a fight is truly risky, players start thinking of clever ways to avoid it, which makes the fights that do break out feel way more important. Combat should be war, not a sport. It should be a dramatic question, not a foregone conclusion. And finally, let's talk about the habit that's most often disguised as being helpful, the rules lawyer. Look, knowing the rules is a good thing, but the rules lawyer weaponizes this. This is the player who stops the action to debate the precise wording of a spell for a tiny advantage, turning the flow of the game into a legal deposition. They're not trying to keep the game fair, they're trying to win D&D. This behavior just breeds resentment, slows everything to a crawl, and totally undermines the DM. And it can come from the DM's side of the screen too, twisting the letter of the law to shut down a player's awesome idea. The real issue here is caring more about a rigid set of regulations than the fun and forward momentum of the game. It kills the collaborative spirit that D&D is built on. The fix for this is the same as our first one, and it's really the golden rule for a healthy table. Rulings, not rules. The DM is the final judge. A good DM listens to their players, but in the end, they make a call for the sake of the game. And a good player respects that call, even if they disagree, and saves the deep dive discussion for after the session. We're not here to perfectly execute a complex legal document. We're here to build a story together. The rules are just a tool to help us, not a cage to trap us in. So when you look at all 5 of these, the endless debate, players waiting for plot, the DM hiding everything, the combat slog, and the rules lawyer, you start to see a pattern, right? All these problems come from a breakdown in communication and losing focus on the shared story. And the fixes are all about getting that focus back with clear expectations, player agency, and putting the adventure ahead of the individual. It's not about finding the one right way to play. It's about being aware of the habits that stop everyone at the table from having a good time. The best games are built on trust, clear communication, and a shared goal of making something awesome together. What do you think? What are the bad habits that have driven your games into the ground? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and if you've spotted some of these habits at your own table and want a tool to help fix them, I put together a table rehab card. It's a simple one-page PDF with these OSR-inspired ideas that you can share with your group. The link is in the description. If you found this helpful, please give this video a like, subscribe for more, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next chat. Now, if you'll excuse me, the Tavern Keeper is giving me the stink eye. Until next time, may your dice roll high and your games be free of bad habits.